They are come to the killing floor.
Let's get this party started!
I seriously believe something weird is going on.
What is that thing?
We have to stay together. This isn't right. We should split up.
Yeah, good idea.
Really?
We gotta get out of here.
Somebody sent those things here to get us.
You're missing the point. I want to see us punished.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hello.
This week, we'll be discussing the horror classic, The Cabin in the Woods, starring Chris Hemsworth and others. Bradley Whitford, Sigourney Weaver pops in there a little bit later. Good times.
I think you can remove that question mark at the end because I know this is going to surprise you, I actually really like this movie.
It's great.
It's solid.
It is great. Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Well, you know, it was written by Joss Whedon. Or he co-wrote it with the director Drew Goddard. So,
I never watched Buffy.
Well, it's Buffy, but he's also was kind of the brainchild behind like the Avengers movies.
Okay, see that I was more about the Buffy, and then you started
going in the wrong direction.
You went in the opposite direction of where you needed to go. Now
very
you've lost
sad.
me. You've lost.
That was
me.
it?
That was it. Goodbye.
So, had you ever heard of this movie?
I had, and I thought I saw it, but I think there's another movie with like a cabin or something. And like, what was the cover for The Crazies? I swear to you, I thought I saw this movie, but apparently it wasn't like I got halfway through and went, aha. It was literally, I just watched this whole movie. I took no notes because I was engrossed in it.
Oh, really? Look at that.
Because I didn't want, and I was trying to multitask, and then I didn't want to miss anything. In some of the older classics where I've seen 100 times, then right. I have time to take notes, but I was afraid I was going to miss something. Plus, it wasn't like, there wasn't like a lot of deep thoughts, it wasn't like, well, this symbolizes the blah, blah.
No, there wasn't a lot of that. But what's good about it is it's kind of it's a unique idea.
Yes.
While at the same time kind of playing into the obvious tropes of these kind of movies.
Right.
So it was a good combination, I thought.
Are you ready for my 30-second story?
Lay it on me.
Kids in an RV go to a cabin. Which, if you have an RV, I don't know why you're going. I
was gonna ask that. Why do you need an RV if you're driving to a cabin? Good
Somebody's
question.
uncle has this cabin, which later on seems problematic. But
yes.
Anyway, they get to the cabin. And as with all these teenage young people movies, there's drinking, there's drugging, there's fornicating, and basically everything that could possibly go wrong has the potential of going wrong here. So then we discover that this place is wired up and there's like some government agency who is tracking this. And they seem to be playing against other international teams. It was like, whoa, what is this? So that was fascinating. And then there were also these veiled references to the people that were before.
Right.
I don't know. Zeus? I don't know.
Could be.
Azul? Is it Ghostbusters? We don't know. It seems more like the Ghostbuster monsters.
Okay, hang on. It's Zool.
Zool.
Azul is blue in Spanish, but continue.
What if the monster is in fact blue? Then
that would make sense.
Like Grimace was purple, so now you've blown my mind.
That's what I do.
So anyway, basically it's like a puzzle. Each of their decisions triggers a different outcome, and people in the government agency are wagering on it.
Right.
I mean, the people who usually die in these movies die, but then there's like an M. Night Shyamalan. You're like, whoop whoop, someone's still alive. You thought it was over.
Yes, that's true.
But it is not. And then it's movies where you're like, what? And then it's not just one twist, it's multiple twists. So if you look at the poster, it is a cabin that's in pieces, like one of those puzzle boxes from...
Like a Rubik's Cube.
Like a Rubik's Cube, but I was not going Rubik's Cube.
No, you were not.
I was going Hellraiser.
Yes.
And so that is your tip-off. It's not just one answer. There's a couple of little twists and puzzles, and you got to figure this out. So
let me jump in
fantastic.
real quick. One thing that was interesting, because you're talking about this twist, but really it's not a twist. Because the first time people you meet are the government types, Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins, wandering around the facility talking about things. We don't know precisely what's going on, but we know from Jump Street that they're monitoring these kids going on their weekend trip to the cabin.
Yeah, here's the thing. The minute the kids are in the RV and pull away, you see like what appear to be government, Secret Service with the little earpieces on the roof of their house.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And quite frankly, I had this bedazzled idea that the government man, one of the main government man, was like the father of one of these kids, and this was some setup to get to the father. That's where my mind went at the beginning.
Okay.
Like somehow they're related, like someone's doing something to get to them, and then it's revealed that I was having a figment of my imagination.
One good thing, because I never saw this movie in the theater. Like I think I saw like a poster for it.
Right.
Had no. And then I was just like, well, I think it was on. Like I was flipping channels or saw something. And I watched it and I was bowled over.
It was
I thought it was
dynamite.
Dynamite. Because it's, as a horror file that I am, it's like it absolutely has those things, those recognizable things that you've seen. Later in the movie, when they start introducing all the other critters that are down in like the storage containers, whatever those things are.
Right.
It's like if you can recognize those tropes from other movies, some of them from like recent movies, you know what I mean? Which is kind of interesting.
Right. They brought it all the way up. They had some form of Hellraiser. I mean,
absolutely. Classic
monsters. There was the twins from The Shining. Anything you can frickin' think of, they had it.
They did. It was dynamite.
They even took a nod over to the Japanese horror film with the little 9-year-old girls. That was fantastic.
That was like Ju-on the Grudge.
Yeah, I want to watch that movie. And oh yeah, I have nothing but positive things to say, because I will tell you, the teenage slasher movies are really like my least favorite genre. I mean, I was solid behind A Nightmare on Elm Street just because it was just creepy imagery. I mean, the first of all these movies are always dynamite, and then it's boring. So they kind of took that with the teenagers, with all the archetypes that they're beating us over the frickin' head with the archetype, the virgin, the whore. I love that the women archetypes are about whether they'll have sex or not.
Yes.
Where the men are more, he's the scholar. Why can't the scholar be a woman? Oh, they're a jock. Why couldn't the woman be, I don't know.
These are good questions.
You hear what I'm saying? Because
I do.
Who wrote the archetypes? Fucking men. Boom! I'm going to turn every one of these episodes into a feminist tirade.
Well, what's funny is they act like these archetypes have been around since the dawn of time. They've been around since about 1979.
Yeah. This is some hoo-ha boo-bah written by men based on a horror movie did something that another horror movie copied it. I mean, the idea of the virgin or the whore has been around forever.
Well, of course.
And I love that they want to perpetuate this. But you know what? Couldn't the twist be the virgin and the whore are the guys? Because the jock is, in fact, also the whore.
Well, what's interesting is they kind of throw up they basically try to fit these people into these archetypes.
Yes,
So
that's,
when you
that's
meet-
the clever thing about
Right.
this, too.
When you meet Chris Hemsworth, he's obviously like captain of the football team, but then he's talking about like the sociology book she should be reading. You know what I mean? And it's like the scholar, because he wears glasses, is also on the football team and he's all ripped.
Yeah.
So and at one point she's like, "You're the virgin, you're the one who's supposed to survive." And she's like, "Virgin?" And she's like, "Well, we work with what we have."
And the blonde who's supposed to be the dumb blonde just dyed her hair blonde, not a blonde.
Right.
And super smart.
Right.
Was
It
bringing
something that-
books to study.
Yes. That's what's so funny. So they're aware of these kind of tropes and are trying to circumvent them to a certain degree. But I do appreciate the idea that a woman could also be a scholar or a jock or even a fool.
Yes.
So there you have it. Good times.
Good time. But it's beautiful. So I think in the end, so the way this is set up, the reason, according to them, they have these archetypes, because at the end, they're actually there for a human sacrifice.
Right. If they don't sacrifice these teenagers based upon these rituals who fill these archetypes, then the old gods will come and take over and destroy the world. Kill everybody, essentially. But what's interesting is that there are these government experiments going on all over the world. And the archetypes are different from country to country.
Right. So
that's
does that
kinda interesting.
mean there's different gods based on what the offering is?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Because that's what I was thinking. How is a room full of 9-year-old girls versus the 5 teenagers or whatever?
Right. I don't know. That's a good question. These are important questions.
Honestly, I want to watch the 9-year-old Japanese girl movie. Why didn't they do that one next? That would have been fascinating. And then, I mean, just we're always spoiling. But in Japan, they reference other places, but they really only well, no, they do show another country. But in Japan, the Japanese one, it's all little 9-year-old girls defeating a demon and figuring it all out.
Right. It's basically like, as long as one of these countries is able to carry out the sacrifice, then the old gods are appeased for another year, another 10. It gets kind of sketchy. We don't know how long they have to do these things, every year, every 10 years, whatever.
Exactly.
And when the movie starts, you learn, Sweden has already botched it. They already just messed up. Now it comes down to the United States and Japan.
What was Sweden? Do you think it was some Norse god? Is it what is it? The serpent in the Grimm? What is it? Oh my God!
It's the serpent in the Grimm. That's exactly.
No, in the ancient Norse, it was Grendel.
The Grendel.
Shut up! Do you not know?
It's called the Grendel.
Yes, the Grendel's coming up. Is that the sacrifice?
Beowulf is what you're talking
I'm trying
about.
to think
Thank
of
you.
Beowulf. Come on, man.
Very
Help
good.
a sister out.
No, I think it's like Midsummer or something.
We're watching that next.
Okay, this is what they say. This is kind of behind the scenes. They say the Kyoto ritual is a reference to Ringu, or the ring.
Love.
The Buenos Aires ritual is a reference to King Kong.
Oh.
The Stockholm ritual is a reference to John Carpenter's The Thing.
Freeze.
Yes.
What would King Kong have to do with South America?
If you watch, they show like the videos, TV monitors of each of
Yes.
the places, and it shows Buenos Aires, and you see like a King Kong type character like laying dead.
Yeah.
That's only what. Why does it? Well, what does Stockholm have to do with The Thing? It's cold.
Oh,
I don't know.
Is that what Stockholm was?
Yes.
It's about Beowulf?
Yes, it's not Beowulf. And Madrid, the Madrid reference appears to be Dracula.
Because wasn't it The Thing? Weren't those Swedish explorers that discovered The Thing?
No, they were Norwegian.
It's the
You
same
racist.
thing. It's the same thing.
The old Norge.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it. So as long as one of these are able to accomplish their sacrifice, then the world will continue to go on, I guess. But it's down to Japan. But luckily, Japan has 100% rate. Japan never messes it up until this year.
Until
Spoiler
this
alert.
year.
So good times.
I mean, if we're gonna look at this really technically,
we're doing it. We're digging deep.
doesn't this seem like a lot of work?
It does. Well, it does, especially considering there are times where literally.
Why they just let it scare them and then line them up and shoot them? Why don't they do that?
Right. Well, there's a point later in the movie where they're literally like sending in the SWAT team.
Yes.
Going, just shoot him. Shoot him, and then after he's dead, you can shoot her if you want. Basically, at that point, right?
Yeah.
At that point, it goes off the rails.
Yeah, so I don't understand it. This morphed into this entertainment for the people, and then the other thing I wasn't sure about, because they had the serial killer who was practicing his lines and was annoyed that he was on speakerphone. He sounded crazy until he was like, "Am I on speakerphone? Take me off speakerphone."
He is the harbinger archetype, basically. And you see this in like Friday the 13th. When the kids arrive to the camp, there's Crazy Ralph going, "It's got a death curse. You're all going to die." Evidently, that's part of the ritual.
So this dude's an actor, but
he's not really an actor. He's also really a harbinger. Because he's talking to them about the stuff.
Did I miss it? When did they talk? Oh, he's the guy at the gas station.
He's the gas station dude. But here's the thing. He really doesn't do anything to dissuade them at the gas station.
Right.
He's more, and maybe this is on purpose, he's much more of a harbinger when he calls the office to talk to the government types.
He's warning them.
He's warning them. So, coincidence, or was this a choice?
So, but once again, he's kind of an actor because he's running his lines, but the zombies are zombies.
I don't think he was running. See, you think he was running his lines. I think he was just telling them his truth when he called in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
So, that was my interpretation. Who knows?
Your interpretation makes sense, but I think they did it under the pretext that he wanted to test this out with them.
Oh, I don't know. That's not how I read it, but interesting perspective.
All right. Because then I was like, are these all actors? And if they're not actors, that's my clue that this is more than a government thing.
Right. Well, so they get to the cabin, and you could tell they're doing things to kind of stimulate certain responses. Like they say, they put some chemical in the girl's hair dye.
To make her stupid.
Right. To make her more of the dumb blonde.
Right.
They also did some kind of chemical thing to make Chris Hemsworth more of an alpha male type than he normally would be.
Little testosterone sprinkled with his cornflakes.
And the one dude, the stoner guy, they were supposed to like dose his weed to make him more stony, but evidently it did the opposite. Like he had extra stashes, which explained why he is so inquisitive and was so like incredulous and like, why are we doing this? Why is this happening?
Yeah,
he
was
questioning
everything.
Questions.
He was he was the voice, the stony dude, the fool.
Right,
is the hero.
Right. He has until the end. We're going to talk about the end a little bit later. But at one point, like, the cellar door slams open. It's like a trap door like Evil Dead.
Evil Dead. As soon as that trap door popped open, I'm like, we're going to get you.
And he literally says, like, how did this happen? And Chris Hemsworth goes, like, oh, the wind must have blown it open. He's like, how does that make any sense?
Yeah, exactly.
Good times. So down in the basement of this thing are all these artifacts, and this is part of the ritual, right?
Oh, yeah. It's like the Warren special room. It's like anything that could possibly be effed up or creepy is in that.
Right.
I'm surprised they didn't have the Evil Dead, the Flesh book with the big teeth.
The Necronomicon
The Ex Mortis, yes.
So in whichever artifact they choose unwittingly will determine what monster or creature comes to kill them, essentially.
And this is where it gets it gets interesting because you see that people have placed bets on what they're going to pick up.
Yes.
And then we learn that, yeah, like you said, this is going to determine how supposedly they're going to die.
Because that's the thing. It's like the government types don't explain everything to us like in the beginning. They just slowly kind of give us a little bit more information about what's going on. Like there's the intern that they talk to a little bit. There's the new security guy, Truman, that they talk to a little bit. So those characters are meant to be like the audience, who don't know what's going on. So they kind of feed them information in a sense. They're feeding us information.
Absolutely.
So that was kind of interesting. And then they choose some crazy book. It was like the diary, and evidently the house used to be lived in by a crazy hillbilly zombie torture family.
Right.
Is that what so
white trash hillbilly torture family, yeah. Ed Gein's wife and children.
That's basically what it is. So now those characters come out of the ground, presumably out of their graves. We later find out there's like an elevator that leads up to the ground, and they just climb out,
right,
and attack. And these are real monsters. This isn't Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
right?
I thought it was going to be Scooby-Doo, but apparently it is not.
So one scene that I thought was hilarious. So again, the dumb blonde and the dumb jock go out in the woods to get down to business, which makes absolutely no sense.
No.
Number one, they have their own room in the cabin.
Yeah, doesn't she say that? We can go inside. There's a bed.
Right. And if that bed wasn't doing it for you, you got the huge Rambler out there that they could slide right, the mobile home or whatever, to slide right in. No, we'd rather do it in the woods.
In the mud.
In the mud.
There's a beetle crawling in my chonies. No thanks.
There's a Japanese beetle crawling in my chonies. But you're right. At one point she's like, it's too cold. And then the guys back in the office building or whatever adjust like the settings to make it warmer. They're like 75 now. They're like, hit the pheromones, and you see like this mist coming out of the ground. So that was good.
The government agency did think of everything.
They did. Or didn't, because then there were a lot of mistakes.
I mean, if it was 66 and then 1 second later it was 75, I would have thought I was having a heat stroke or something. What is that? Hot flashes at 22.
That's
what's happening? Do I have a fever? What's happening?
Something's happening. So this is when it goes real. Now you have the zombies who use like farm implements to kill people.
They are dangerous. They are dangerous.
They have big like saws used for like cutting like logs. One guy had like it seemingly a bear trap on the end of a chain.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
That was rough around the edges. So they have to die one at a time, and in a certain order. We find out it's basically like as long as the whore and the fool and the athlete and the scholar die before the virgin, then it's okay. Then they've met the ritual and life will continue, essentially.
The virgin is optional.
Right. The virgin has to either die last or the virgin can survive. But if the virgin dies earlier, then it does not fulfill the ritual, evidently.
One thing not answered is what if the virgin survives, what happens to her? They just say, okay, here you go.
And that's an excellent question.
Yeah.
What happens then? It seems like it's set up so that she has to die eventually. Because literally they're popping champagne thinking, oh, we got it. And in the background, you see her still being basically murdered by the zombie dude. And that goes on, I swear to God, for 5 minutes. Her being...
Blood is everywhere. Yeah, that was ugly. Everybody's like, woo! Everybody's drunk. I'm the intern. You so pretty. Yeah.
REO Speedwagon's blasting in the background.
God. I'm like, I haven't heard that song. No one's playing that song anymore. roll with the changes. Roll with the changes.
Yeah, exactly.
High Infidelity, man. Every song was a hit on that album.
But then they discovered that the fool actually didn't die. They thought the fool had died, but they didn't. You think there'd be some kind of method where they have like the life signs of the victims, so
Yes.
they know for certain.
So who called?
Sigourney Weaver, I guess, because as they're celebrating, the red phone rings, and the person evidently says off camera, "Hey, the ritual's not over yet, and the virgin's about to be killed with the still alive."
Right.
So we got to get on this. Luckily, the fool, who's the stoner dude, pops up and rescues her at the 11th hour, and then he has discovered that this is all kind of a huge conspiracy, because earlier he found like a camera hidden in like a broken lamp.
Yes.
Did
He already.
you see that?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. That camera is like just a little wire. It's like what the FBI would use or something. Are you telling me some crazy stoner would pick up that wire and immediately know, oh, this is a camera?
See, he had that special weed.
It's a special weed. Only thing I can think of.
It makes you energized and a genius.
It makes you energized. Exactly.
It's
like
reversal weed.
it's that pill that Bradley Cooper takes in that movie Limitless.
Oh.
That's there you go.
Huh?
No one's gonna get that reference.
Even I never saw that damn movie.
Exactly. So somehow the two of them make it into the underground government facility and have figured out the whole plot of the movie by themselves, essentially. And at this point, they're like, "Oh, just send the SWAT team down there to kill them." And this is where it's like that question we talked about. Why all the rigmarole?
Yeah.
If at the 11th
This
hour
is
you can just shoot
costing
them.
tens of thousands of dollars. You got to store every monster and serial killer since the dawn of time.
Yes.
Or are they the gods? Are they all part of these gods? Did the gods create? Did the government create these monsters? What is that? Are they
Well, that's the thing.
robots?
There's a line in there where security officer Truman says, like, "These are like, something from my nightmares." And I was like, "Oh, no. Your nightmares are from these creatures." So what does that mean? I don't know, but it sounds interesting. That's all I'm going to say.
No,
still
it's
there?
dynamite, my friend. It is dynamite.
I love the fact that when they send the SWAT team, the two of them are hiding in a little control room, and there's literally a button that says purge. I can't envision a scenario where you'd say, like, we got to have a button that frees all the monsters.
Yeah, that just seems like a bad
Right?
idea. Why would you want that? Seems like a dangerous thing to have.
A bad idea. It's like, make sure you have a single button, a big red button that you can press, and all the horrible creatures will be released
They're just loose.
onto the office workers. Exactly. Not a good plan.
No. But and by the end, when everybody was just like a splatter fest, I started to lose a little bit of interest there. But like I said, it's still dynamite.
No, I agree with you, because at that point it is.
And then it's just CGI, blah 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 blah.
Right. It's a cacophony. It's like the end of Waxwork, where it's just bedlam.
Yeah.
You see people getting murdered left and of
What if
creatures
at the end it was the monsters from Waxwork that they've been frightened by the whole time? That's
the movie
it.
would be 5% better. That's all I'm saying.
I would say, and we'll call it the Waxwork Cabin in the Woods, the musical.
Why not?
It works for Little Shop of Horrors.
Little shop
Little Shop of Horrors. Well, we need to start a barbershop.
Please. So one by one, all the people are murdered except for it's Dana and who's the stoner? Marty. Dana and Marty, the virgin and the fool, are the only ones left.
Right.
Somehow they stumble their way into that ancient temple, and that's when Sigourney Weaver pops out and explains the whole plot and basically says, you have to kill Marty or world will end. The whole world will end. Because earlier in the movie, Marty's like, man, we should just flip the switch and reboot the world or something.
So
He kind of makes some comment.
Yes,
Go ahead.
but why is it the Virgin's responsibility to kill Marty when just a minute ago the SWAT team was coming to get Marty?
Of course. So Sigourney Weaver could have walked in there with a machine gun and just shot Marty and said, I'll explain later. But no. She comes in there unarmed and instead tries to appeal to Dana to do it, which Dana almost does.
Yes.
Dana almost does. And frankly, when Marty hears about how you can die with the world or for the world, is what Sigourney Weaver says to him, which is a pretty compelling case.
Yes.
And he's like, they both seem awfully enticing. He doesn't, and he's like, I don't care. He doesn't, you think he'd jump off the cliff, he'd take his own life? No, Marty's not a hero here. No. Marty's like, well, if I'm going to go, I guess we can all go.
Yeah, off. We're all going. This place has become a shithole anyway. Boom!
Right. Yeah, and that's how it ends, spoiler alert.
Quite frankly, what does it mean that the world ends? So the gods are going to commit suicide, or they're wiping out the human race?
They're destroying the earth.
They're destroying the earth. So then the gods will no longer have anyone to sacrifice. I mean, they're destroying themselves.
Well, it's like those vampire movies where they want to kill all the humans. So that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense because then they hadn't invented the true blood yet. So exactly.
Exactly. Good question.
Yeah, I never understood these groups that want to destroy the earth because you kind of go along with it. I mean, I know there's religious zealots who think there's like this world waiting for them, but in this case, no. And did you ever watch or read American Gods?
No. I'm familiar with it, but I never watched it.
So the premise there, and it's the premise elsewhere. If there are no believers, the gods no longer exist.
Right.
So if you kill the people who are sacrificing for you, do you still exist?
If a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear it?
What's the sound of one hand clapping?
That's right. These are all important questions.
Yeah.
This is deep.
I'm telling you. Deep. You had no idea how deep this was.
Do you have any other highlights you want to talk about?
Oh, no, it's just dynamite. It's just interesting. Yeah. I really liked it. It was fresh because they talk about this genre was just so over and dead and boring and who gives a... And then this was just really fresh and gave it a kick in the butt. Oh,
no question. No question. Well, let's go right into behind the scenes.
All right, lay it on me.
This movie was made by MGM, and MGM went bankrupt, so it almost was never released. Lionsgate actually had to pick it up and convince Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard that it was a good movie and to let them release it, which happened a couple of years later, essentially.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was filmed in 2009. Chris Hemsworth at the time was primarily known as being an Australian soap opera star. and a contestant on Australian Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, how funny! I didn't know that.
Yeah,
well, I'm not following really any of the Hemsworths, so.
He was cast in this, and then cast in another movie made by the same company about the same time, which was the remake of Red Dawn. Both of them were kind of shoved on a shelf, and a month later he was cast as Thor. So both those movies came out after he was now big star Thor.
Oh, so then he went boom. All three popped out, and now he's international. Good Lord.
So that's number one. The opening scene where it's Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins driving around talking about how his wife has installed safety locks on all the drawers for his upcoming baby.
Yes.
That was all written in an attempt to confuse the audience.
Yeah, that's
to have them walk in and be like, am I watching the wrong movie? Because it's like a light comedy kind of thing.
Exactly. I was like, what's happening? What's happening? That's why I don't know why I kept thinking that this was like the parent or whatever of one of these kids. I'm like, what's the connection?
Right. That's they want you on your toes there. They don't want you to know what's going on.
Well, they got me on my toes.
The thermal coffee mug bong was a fully functional mug and bong.
Well,
And it
that's
was a-
important that it wasn't just
Yes.
a prop.
It was a prototype which cost $5,000 to make, so you can look for it.
Come on, I think all you need for a bong is something that holds water and has like 2 small holes drilled into it.
We know people who made bongs out of apples, so anything goes at that stage of the game.
Apples,
Not a bong,
soda
that was a pipe.
cans. Yeah, soda
Yeah.
cans, whatever. You
There's a
know, children are ingenious.
They are. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Uh-huh.
There's a scene where all the kids were swimming in the river or the lake there, except for Marty. You see Marty walk up there wearing like a big baggy shirt and a towel around his neck, smoking a J.
Yeah.
The reason why is because Marty, in real life, the actor Fran Kranz, was actually buffer than anybody else.
Shut your
And they thought
mouth!
it was-
So they had
yes.
to keep him under wraps?
Yes.
But he
thought it-
was buffer than Chris Helmsworth?
That might be pushing it, but he was bizarrely buff.
He was like a mini Schwarzenegger under his floppy stoner sweatshirt.
Yeah, they called him Muscular Jesus. So they had to insist that he keep all his... Which is why he's wearing baggy clothes the entire movie.
That's hysterical hijinks.
Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard wrote the script in just 3 days. They sat in a hotel room, hammered it out.
Right on. I hope they earned a lot of money on this. God bless.
There's that gross scene where they're playing Truth or Dare, and he makes the blonde chick like make out with the wolf.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
On the wall.
That was disgusting.
It was disgusting, and it was dusty, but the dust was powdered sugar.
Yeah.
So they put powdered sugar to make it not quite so disgusting.
Men are always trying to figure out what they can put on disgusting things to get girls to lick it.
Interesting.
Damn you,
Sweet
man.
Jesus. Wah, wah, wah. At one point, you see a whiteboard listing all the monsters that they are betting on to see which one they will choose.
Oh, good call. I didn't see that.
And if you're looking close, one of the monsters, Kevin. Thank you. That's not a joke. Just the name. It says like Zombie Family, and then Kevin is the next one on the list. So
I was just processing that. I'm like, so who's the famous murderer Kevin? I mean, I knew
Exactly.
it wasn't you, although that would have been
as far as you
funnier.
know.
As far as we know. Are you in quarantine down there in Irvine, or are you in fact in jail? We don't know.
Nobody knows.
It's a mystery.
There was one really funny line when Chris Hemsworth finds the textbooks in the girl's bag, and he says, "What are you doing with these? Who gave you these? Who taught you about these?" And she answers, "I learned it from watching you, okay? I learned it from watching you."
That was my favorite scene. And then she like runs out crying, "I learned it from you," and then runs out and slams the door. It was like an after school special.
Oh, I loved those PSAs from the late 80s. They were hilarious. Hilarious.
Yeah, no, that was beautiful. That was a beautiful scene.
Let's see. Jules. There's a scene where she is topless in the woods. And the director, Drew Goddard, was so concerned about it. He was uncomfortable with it that she actually had to convince him it was okay.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah. Because, in spite of everything, it is a trope in these kind of movies.
Right.
So, say what you will. That's kind of what they were going for.
And
Now,
they specifically tried to find someone who did not have artificial breasts.
I don't know if that was a topic of discussion or not.
No, it's in the script. It's in the script. And
Is it really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I was reading this lady's blog about this movie that she was a huge Buffy fan, but she thought it would be too scary to go see this movie. Her mom bought her like one of those illustrated kind of script things with pictures from the movie. And it described, I forgot, the description was that they were natural and impressive or something crazy like that.
That's entirely too much information.
Well, if you like I say, if you look back at the original Friday the 13th, everybody's an A-B.
Right.
And then, cut 10 years later, if you're not a double D, you ain't in my movie.
It's called Progress. Okay.
Oh my god, it's called flotation devices.
Pretty much. The false Hellraiser character that you see in there, he's named in the credits as Fornicus, Lord of Bondage and Pain.
Okay.
So there you go. Fornicus.
Pure Hellraiser.
Exactly. Many of the creatures that you see over the course of this movie are characters that you also had seen in episodes of Buffy, like scary clowns. There's like a giant tentacle that comes out. That's also kind of a Buffy character. Like, because if you've ever watched Buffy, it is kind of like that episodal, different scary monster of the week kind of thing. So
I mean, I have seen episodes of Buffy, but and an occasional episode of Angel, but it was not my jam.
Not your damn jam.
Not my damn. Although I did watch the one occasionally of the Witches that has the Smith song.
Very good.
What is that? What is it?
I don't know.
I am the sun, I am the air. You know, with Shannon Doherty was on it, I think, at one time.
Charmed?
Yes!
Okay. You're good to know. Oh, sweet Jesus.
I assume that was all of that. It was all during that time. Then you had, like, the Craft movie came out. People were all into teenage witchery.
Yeah, we're all into that, no question. Heather Langenkamp, who was famous for being in Nightmare on Elm Street. She was Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street. Worked as a makeup in this movie. So there you go.
Did you get all your information from 10 Twisted Facts about Cabin in the Woods? Because you literally have just read off everything I had written down.
What's 10 Twisted Facts of... All my stuff's from IMDb. I don't know what 10 Twisted Facts of Jesus
Mental Floss has like these lists. Mental Floss has all these lists, and one of the lists were 10 Twisted Facts about Cabin in the Woods.
Well, that's interesting.
And it's the chick from Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the powdered sugar on the silicone tongue. That they drew some inspiration from their characters from the Breakfast Club and Los Alamos. So the idea of the guys in the suits and the control center are all based on Los Alamos, New Mexico, and the town surrounding it, where the town only exists to test the nuclear bomb, and they're all interrelated, and their whole reason to be and to live is for what's going on there, and that's what they were trying to project. With these people,
very good.
They all live to see teenagers die and save the world.
Among the possible choices on the faculty's betting board are the following.
Okay.
And these aren't all of them, because there are other creatures running around at the end that do not appear on this board.
Okay.
So there you go. Werewolf, alien beast, mutants, wraiths, zombies, reptilius, clowns, witches, sexy witches, demons, hell lord, angry molesting tree, giant snake, deadites.
The angry molesting tree is clearly from Evil Dead.
Absolutely. Mummy, the bride, scarecrows.
Why is the bride... Oh, not the Bride of Frankenstein.
I guess, I don't know. It just says the bride.
Some effed up bride.
Exactly. Snowman, dragon bat.
Or is it the bride from Kill Bill?
Could be.
She's going to come and just samurai your
ass.
It's
Uma Thurman.
It's Uma Thurman's coming for you.
Let me see. Vampires, something called Dismemberment Goblin. I don't know what the hell that's a reference to.
I guess
Sugar
they could bone you
Fairy?
like a rotisserie chicken.
Could be.
Sugar
Merman. I don't know. The Reanimated, Unicorn, Huron. So basically, what, a Native American?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
But angry. But we did see the unicorn.
Sasquatch, Wendigo, Yeti. Dolls, Zombie Redneck Torture Family.
Oh, we saw them.
The Doctors, Jack-O-Lantern, Giant,
Are
Twins.
the Doctors? Is that from that morning show? They're
It
gonna
is.
come
It's
and get
Dr.
you?
Drew, Dr. Phil, and
Oh, that's more terrifying.
and Kevin was the last name on the list.
That's
so
funny.
there you go.
That's funny.
Good times. Should we talk about the cast ever so briefly?
Sure, if you must. We know Chris Hemsworth.
Chris
doing-
Hemsworth
doing
is
his
Kurt,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
Dana was played by Kristen Connolly, who was in The Happening and Meet Dave and Revolutionary Road.
Oh
I
my
don't know.
God, The Happening was so disappointing.
Jules was played by Anne Hutchison, who was in Robert the Bruce, Encounter, Vengeance, A Love Story. I've never heard of any of these.
No.
I hate
Next.
to. Marty was played by Fran Kranz, who was in The Village.
What do
He
you
was
think
in-
Fran stands for? He's Francis?
Francis.
All right. Like
Training
like
Day,
Sinatra?
Like Sinatra. Francis Albert.
Yep.
Holden was played by Jesse Williams. His big thing is he's on Grey's Anatomy to this day. So if you
Never,
like that, you'll see him.
never seen it. Never seen it.
Sitterson was Richard Jenkins, who you've seen in 10 million things. Most recently, Shape of Water, Step
God,
Brothers.
I hated Shape of Water. I hated it so much.
Bradley Whitford played Hadley. He was.
I
in,
do
of
like
course-
Bradley Whitford.
He's great.
He's great.
Most recently, Get Out. He was Josh Lyman on The West Wing.
I never saw that.
I've liked Bradley Whitford since Revenge of the Nerds Part 2. So there you go. If you want to go deep,
No.
he was the main mean guy back in the day. And the guy who played Mordecai, the Harbinger, you'll recognize him from Shawshank. He was Boggs, the head rapist. So you have that to look forward to.
I hope that's what it says on his resume.
The head rapist.
Head rapist.
And of course, Sigourney Weaver is in this
You
as
don't
well.
want to be a lesser rapist. Now, let me ask you this question. So at the very end, we meet the Ancient One. Is she
Yes.
Samira from The Ring?
She's not the Ancient One. She's just the director.
No, not Sigourney. Sigourney gets hit in the back with an axe by this
Yes.
girl.
Yes. So who is you're just talking about the hand that comes out of the ground?
No, the girl at the end who gets pushed over the side.
No, that's Patience Buckner, the one-armed Buckner zombie girl.
I assume that since she was the named character that made her the Ancient One, that it was just a coinky dinky. That
I don't
she
know
just happened to show
Yes,
up there.
she just happened to. She was just wandering around with one arm.
Okay, I thought little Patience or Samira, whatever you want to call her.
Samira.
I
From
thought
The
it was-
Ring?
From The Ring. So I thought it was very interesting that they killed her just by kicking her over into the crevasse.
It was pretty easy peasy. Well, she sticks Sigourney with an axe to the back of the head. And the
Yes.
axe gets stuck. So Marty pushes Sigourney's body over, and I guess just the force just pulls. She doesn't let go of the axe, I guess, at this point. Just rolls over with it.
So-
Hard to say.
Because old Wilford, not Brimley, said, or no, the other guy says, you have to kill her. So who's her?
No, he says to her, you have to kill him. She said, just kill him.
No. They find one of the control center dudes in the
Yes.
hallway.
Right. He talks to her. He pulls her. She stabs him.
Yes.
Dana stabs him, and he pulls her close and says, kill him.
Oh my God, what's wrong with me? I didn't get. I assume they meant the Ancient One.
No, not the
All right.
Ancient One.
Wah, wah.
Good times. You want to talk about the ratings?
Oh yeah.
It is 92% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
I will agree with that. It's a classic. I wouldn't mind watching it again. I'm sure I missed a bunch of stuff.
Dynamite. Now, sadly, the audience only gave it 74%.
Well, the audience is stupid. The audience is clearly a bunch of 12-year-olds who didn't understand. It's
I agree.
genius.
So what is your rating?
I am going to give it a solid 5 out of 5 not Samiras.
I'm going to give it 5 out of 6 flying bear traps. So there you go.
The flying bear part was pretty good.
It was great. It's Dynamite. It gets very bloody at the end. It's a bloodbath at the end. But
if you remember
fun.
The Shining, when the elevator door opens and just a sea of blood comes out, it's bloody like that. You're not walking.
Yes.
Don't wear white.
Do not. It's not fun. But I'll tell you, it's like a comedy.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mixing of genres. It's like when it's meant to be scary, it's pretty scary.
Right.
When it's meant to be funny, it's pretty funny.
Right.
So it covers all the bases.
And it's not
any horror file should see it.
It's not overly scary because we discussed this.
No, it's not.
Comedy horrors are never that scary.
Yes.
They're never that
It's
funny
scary.
either. But this one is very amusing.
Yes, it's entertaining. Scary may not be the right word to describe it, but it's like it captures the right mood. It's what it's going for.
Yes, and you're constantly going, what? You're constantly thinking about what's happening. Yeah.
What? So there you have it. Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. You can email us at thepodcastthатwouldn't_die@gmail. Go to our, you can go ahead and subscribe to us. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. Aaron, you are on Twitter as well.
The Cult of Aaron.
So cult it up.
Cult it up, man. Join the cult. Get off that QAnon cult and come join my cult.
Exactly.
I'll set you straight.
But make sure
Oh my
you
God.
send us...
What if Donald Trump is the unholy one that they've been sacrificing children to all this time? I guess
Wouldn't
we'll
shock
know.
me.
We'll know come November.
Exactly. Don't forget to send us movie suggestions as well. If there's something you're dying to have us discuss, send it on over. Email, text, whatever you want to do. Send a letter. I don't know. So there you have it. Thank you very much, and be well.
Be well, my children.